Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, where we use gentle movement sessions to build strength, improve coordination, and increase mobility so that you move better and feel stronger. Today, I'm going to be taking you through a Feldenkrais lesson. So grab a mat, lie down on your back, and let's get started. Today we're going to be doing a lesson called Coordination of the Flexors and Extensors, where we connect movements of the legs and the arms via the core to unlock your torso and power your limbs. Let's start by lying on your back with your legs long and feeling the way your back contacts the floor. Start by feeling how your heels, your ankles and your calves are resting on the mat and which way your feet are pointed. Feel the backs of your knees, thighs and bottom and how they contact the floor. Which parts of your lower, mid, upper backs and shoulders are resting on the floor. How your arms lie here. And how your head and neck feel as you lie here. Then just notice your sense of how your arms and legs feel relative to your torso. Then let that go and bend both knees so that your feet are flat on the floor and your knees are pointed towards the ceiling. And notice how your contact with the floor changes now. Then cross your right knee over your left knee. And then slowly lower your knees down towards the right, feeling your weight shift through your pelvis and feeling whether that weight shift transfers through your ribs as well as your pelvis and how far up your spine this movement travels. Then return your knees to the center so your weight shifts to the center of your pelvis again, and then repeat, breathing out as your knees lower to the right and breathing in to draw your knees back to the middle. Notice how as your knees lower, your foot turns on the left, your weight shifts off your left hip and maybe off your left ribs, and then returns. Just do one more of these. Then uncross your legs, let your feet rest flat on the floor, with your knees hip-width apart. Then lift your arms up towards the ceiling with your palms touching so your arms are forming a pyramid from your wrists to your shoulders. Breathe out and lift your right shoulder to move your hands towards the left, breathing in to return them back. As you do this, feel your weight shift towards the left side of your ribs and the left side of your spine, then return to the center. Keep doing this movement and notice, can you also feel any movement or weight shift through your mid and lower back? Any diagonal feeling of movement from your right shoulder down through your body towards your left hip, your left knee, or even your left foot? Just do 3 more, letting your head roll as your hands move and your ribs roll. Feeling how far through your spine this movement travels. Does it travel all the way down to your sacrum, just to your mid-back, or through to your lower back? Let that go now. And again, cross your right knee over your left knee. And repeat that move of lowering your knees towards the right. And feel, has this movement gotten any easier? Is there more movement through your ribs, through your torso, or even your head and neck? And do the legs feel lighter? Let that go, uncross your legs and let your legs go long, then rest. As you rest now, just notice how your body is contacting the floor now. How do your arms feel relative to your torso? And how do your legs feel relative to your pelvis? Does one side feel longer than the other? Now repeat on the other side. So bending both knees again, with your knees facing the ceiling and your feet flat on the floor. Now cross your left knee over your right thigh. Then lower your knees towards the left, breathing out to let your weight shift to the left side of your pelvis, the left side of your ribs, and feeling how far that movement travels through your spine, then returning to the center. Feel your weight shift to the inside of your right foot, and then back to the center of your right foot or the outside of your right foot. Notice any movement that occurs through your head as you do this. Can you feel that your chin might draw down as your knees draw down and your ribs roll? And then it might draw up as your knees come up and your ribs flatten back down. And can you feel your rib cage moving around your shoulder blades? And just lower your knees one more time to the left, then return. Uncross your legs and let your feet rest on the floor, knees pointing at the ceiling, hip width apart. Then lift your arms to the ceiling again with your palms touching, forming that triangle shape from your palms to your shoulders. And then breathe out, lift your left shoulder and move your hands to the left. Then breathe in to return. And once again, just notice how far through your torso and through your spine this movement travels. As you lift your left shoulder, then return it to the floor. And make sure your palms stay touching and your elbows stay straight. And feel what that does. What more is needed through your ribs and through your waist to move your arms when you keep your palms touching and your arms straight like this. Feel how your ribs need to mobilize to move your hands when your arms stay straight like this. Just 2 more. And last one. Then let that go. Let your arms rest beside you. Again, cross your left knee over your right knee and slowly lower your knees down towards the left. And notice any change that's occurred on this side. See if you can trace that diagonal from your right shoulder down to your left hip and from your right hip up to your left shoulder. Uncross your legs, let your legs go long. And now notice any changes in how you're lying here after having done that sequence. And why do you think it was that the second time you moved your knees it was easier to move them, after you'd moved your hands the opposite way to the way your knees had been moving? How did what was happening in your ribs to move your arms free your legs and pelvis up to move more? Now bend both of your knees again. Then cross your right knee over your left knee again. And before you lower your knees to the right, interlace your fingers and place them behind your head with your elbows resting as wide as is comfortable for you. Now lower your knees towards the right, only as far as your left elbow stays still. Then, as you breathe out, lift your elbows towards your face, then lift your head and chest directly forwards, so not on the diagonal of your knees. Then lower back down on the breath in. And then keep doing that, lifting your head and chest with the support of your elbows, lowering back down, letting your elbows come out. As you do this, notice whether your knees stay still or whether they start to move towards the center again as your head and chest lift directly forwards. And then can you notice that your pelvis is kind of rolling to the center because your ribs and hips are coming closer towards one another at the front, and you're kind of lifting up on one side, so the right side, of your back as you lift up and then lower down. Let that go, uncross your legs, Take your hands out from behind your head. Then interlace your fingers your non-habitual way. So that means if your left hand's little finger was at the bottom of your interlacing before and your right hand's thumb was on top, now you interlace them the reverse way, so that your left hand's thumb is on top and your right hand's little finger is at the bottom, or vice versa. This should feel quite unusual. Now, place your hands behind your head again. Cross your left knee now over your right, with your elbows resting out to the side, and then lower your knees towards the left only to where your right elbow can stay resting where it is. And repeat this movement of lifting your head and chest as your knees and pelvis roll back to the center slightly, and then lowering down, letting your knees and your head and your chest lower down as well. As your chest lifts, your knees lift. As your chest lowers, your knees lower. And just feel that connection between your upper body and lower body as you do this, and through your ribs and your pelvis as they draw towards one another, then move away from one another on this slight diagonal. Just do 3 more of these seesaw sit-up movements. Then bring your knees back to the center and uncross your legs. And interlace your hands the habitual way, so the way you prefer to interlace them. Then place your hands behind your head, bring your elbows in, and on a breath out, lift your head and chest directly forwards. Feeling your ribs draw towards your pelvis and maybe your pelvis draw towards your ribs, breathing in to return down, and repeat. Feeling your elbows draw in as you lift your head, which helps your shoulders draw forwards as you come forwards with your head and chest, which helps your mid-back lower towards the floor so that your upper back can lift, and your lower back might feel like it lowers towards the floor as you come up, and then returns to a kind of neutral position as you come down. Just 2 more. And last one, folding through the front, lengthening through the back. Take your hands out from behind your head, let your legs go long, and rest. Now notice the way you're contacting the floor. Does your back feel any different? Do your legs feel any different as you lie here? And what about your arms? Maybe your back's given up some of its work, so your arms and legs are lying softer or more comfortably on the floor. And now bend your knees again so that they're facing the ceiling and your feet are flat on the floor. Then cross your right arm over your chest so your right hand holds your left ribs. And then cross your left arm over your right arm so your left hand holds your right ribs. So you're giving yourself a big hug. Then, with your left hand, pull on your right ribs so you roll slightly to the left, and then come back to the center, and with your right hand, pull slightly on your left ribs so you roll a little bit to the right, and then back to the center. And as you keep doing this, let your head roll the same way as your arms, your chest, and your shoulders. And just notice the way your ribs change shape as you roll side to side now. Then go a little bit quicker with each one. And as you go quicker, let the movement go a little bit smaller. So now you're getting really subtle movements through the ribs that travel all the way down to your knees and feet. Just do a couple more each side. Then stop and switch which arm's on top. So take your right arm out and put it underneath your left arm, still holding your left ribs with your right hand and your right ribs with your left hand. Then once again do this movement of pulling your right ribs with your left hand and your left ribs with your right hand. Letting your head turn the same way as your ribs and your shoulders, as you roll across your back from one side of your spine to the next. And then just noticing how far through your spine this movement travels. Does it stop at your mid-back or continue down through your lower back? Or is there also some movement through your hips and your knees towards your feet? And then start gradually speeding this movement up and making it a little bit smaller, feeling the changing shapes of your ribs and how your shoulder blades and your ribs move relative to each other as you do this. And then just let that go, let your arms rest beside you, and notice whether there's any more movement through your ribs as you breathe in now. Then once again cross your right arm over your chest to hold your left ribs, and your left arm over your right to hug your right ribs. And then once again draw the right side of your ribs with your left hand so you roll slightly to the left. And then draw with the right hand so that you roll your ribs slightly to the right. And then just keep doing this movement as before, but this time keep your head in the center. So as your ribs and shoulders and your upper back roll side to side, your head stays in the center and you keep looking towards the ceiling. Start making this movement quicker and notice the different shape your ribs are making now. The different angle your arms and shoulders move at, and maybe even the different way your hips move. Then let that go and take your right arm out, putting it underneath the left arm. And then slowly roll your ribs side to side again, pulling your right ribs with your left hand and your left ribs with your right hand. And just notice how your ribs are moving and how your shoulders move around your ribs in a certain way so your head can stay still and you still look at the ceiling. And the different way your pelvis might shift its weight side to side as well as you do this movement. And then start going a little bit quicker and a little bit smaller, kind of like you've gone from walking into a small run. So if your arms weren't holding your ribs, they'd be swinging side to side just beside you a little bit, and your hips and knees would be rocking forwards and backwards. Let that go, let your arms rest beside you, and again notice any changes in how you lie here. For the last time, bring your right arm over your chest and hold your left ribs, your left arm over your right arm to hold your right ribs, and again draw your left ribs with your right hand so you roll slightly to the right, and then your left hand draws your right ribs slightly to the left so you roll to the left. But this time turn your head in the opposite way to the way your ribs and shoulders are turning. And notice how that changes the shape your ribs have to make for your weight to roll side to side through your back. And notice the different way your pelvis needs to move as it rocks slightly side to side. And then start speeding that up just a little and going a bit smaller. Keeping your head turning the opposite way to the way your chest, arms and shoulders turn. Then let that go and take your right arm out, putting it underneath your left arm. And again, drawing with your right arm so that you roll to the right, turning your head to the left, looking to the left, and then returning to the center, drawing with your left arm to roll to the left and turning your head to the right. And notice that as you turn your head to the left, your left shoulder needs to come down away from your chin, and vice versa on the right side. And how does that change the shape your ribs have to make? How does that change the way your pelvis moves as your ribs roll side to side and change their shape to accommodate your head? And then speed that up a little bit, feeling how your whole body is involved in this movement side to side. Let that go. Let your legs go long, your arms rest beside you. Then, Notice any difference in how you're lying on the mat now. How do your legs feel relative to your pelvis, your back, your stomach, your chest, and your shoulders? And how do your arms feel relative to your torso, your pelvis, and your legs? Now bend your knees again. Cross your right leg over your left leg. And again, lower your knees down towards the right and notice what that feels like now. Is that any easier than before? And then bring them back up so your weight's in the center. Then switch legs, lowering once again your knees down towards the left, feeling the weight shift but also feeling how far this movement travels through your torso. And then slowly bring that back up, feeling what's different between how you're doing them now and how you did them at the beginning of the session. Lift your hands up to the pyramid shape where your palms and shoulders form a triangle. Then, by lifting your right shoulder, move your hands again over to the left and notice how that feels now. Is there more movement availability through your torso? Do your arms have a bigger reach? Come back and then repeat on the left side. Lifting your left shoulder, reaching to the right. And then slowly returning. And hopefully you could feel more length through your torso as you did this. Let your arms come down and then roll to your side and come up to sitting. Then from there, bring yourself up to standing. And as you stand here, just notice the way that your body is stacked up, how long your torso feels, and how your legs feel underneath your pelvis, and your arms feel as they connect to your shoulders and your torso. And hopefully your whole body feels more connected. Try to maintain this feeling for the rest of the day. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you had a great session. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.